This is day 26 of building GhostBoss in public. Yesterday, I mapped everything before touching the database. Today, GhostBoss took its first real step off Google Sheets. But before building anything, I had to answer a pretty important question. What exactly are we preserving? Because I don't want to take one giant spreadsheet and turn it into a bunch of database tables. We already proved the execution engine works, so the goal is to replace the foundation underneath it without breaking what already works. We started by creating something I'm calling the migration preservation contract. It's basically a list of everything the new database isn't allowed to break. So founder isolation, done and blocked, recovery history, mission briefs and operational plans, making sure tasks don't accidentally advance twice, all the stuff we just spent weeks proving works. But then we got to a much more interesting question. Instead of asking what does GhostBoss need today, I started asking what data is GhostBoss going to wish it had 2 years from now? Because eventually I want GhostBoss to learn from what founders actually do. So which tasks cause people to get blocked, which recovery strategies work. Is it better to ask a founder to contact 10 prospects instead of 30? Which strategies work for different types of businesses? And which tasks get marked done but don't actually produce anything? GhostBoss can only learn that later if we capture the right information now. So we're preserving the actual execution journey. What GhostBoss asks someone to do, how the founder responded, where they got stuck, how GhostBoss adapted, and what happened afterwards. Basically, we're building a history of what actually works. Then we design the new database around that. And after all that planning, we finally built the first piece. GhostBoss now has its first real PostgreSQL database foundation running on Neon. We separated staging from production, left production untouched, and tested the new system against a real database. Founder identity worked, project isolation worked, the migration worked. And founders now have stable internal IDs instead of email being their fundamental identity. Then came the test I cared about most. After putting this new foundation underneath GhostBoss, all 34 existing execution engine tests still passed. And that's pretty huge because we're not rebuilding GhostBoss. We're replacing the foundation underneath something that already works. And tonight we created a clean checkpoint for the first slice of the database migration. So yesterday, GhostBoss was a working execution engine built fundamentally around Google Sheets. Today, the first piece of its real database architecture exists. At this point, I'd say we're about 30% through the database migration. There's still a lot left to move, connect, and validate, but the foundation is now in place. And the part I'm most excited about isn't PostgreSQL. We're not just building a database for the GhostBoss that exists today. We're building the memory for GhostBoss I want to exist years from now. A system that doesn't just tell founders what to do, but eventually learns what actually works. Execution over motivation. See you tomorrow.